Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this episode of Inlay Terms. I'm your host, Payman Ascari, and we have our second PPC candidate of the day, Miss Mimi Lee. How's it going, Mimi?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. You might be the first PPC candidate that I've actually seen in person, and then I brought onto the show. So,
Okay, that's good to
uh,
know.
yeah, breaking new ground here. Mimi, so how about could you maybe start telling the audience, first of all, tell us what riding you're in, and then tell them a little bit about you, where you grew up, what you do for work, things like that.
Okay, my riding is Markham-Thornhill. So it's a very narrow strip in between, Thornhill and Pickering, kind of. Yeah, so it's very, very narrow, north from 4-7 down to Steeles, Bayview, and Pickering. Yeah.
I
So you were saying, introduce myself about where I grew up from. I came from Hong Kong. I was there until 16 years old when I came to Canada. And pretty much I was here thereafter. But one particular decade that I went back to Hong Kong for my career because at the time it was recession here. So what do? I am a financial advisor for 20 years. And right now, because of my business is not getting very well, I'm helping a community center in the area to do some of the programs. Right now, we are running a pickleball league.
Cool.
Yeah.
I just recently figured out what pickleball is.
Yeah,
Um, I
it's
got a we got kind of a question from the audience. The stuff going on in Pickering with Lisa Robinson and the mayor. I don't know. Do
I
you
have
know?
no clue. I'm not in
Sorry for
Pickering. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't help with that either. So, first thing that struck me was how Toronto, it's set up in a grid formation, so you could easily just say where your riding boundaries are. If I
Mm.
was going to describe what my riding boundary was like, it would take a good hour. It's like
Well,
this massive riding.
I think I'm pretty much kind of lucky because if you look at the other ridings in Markham, like Markham Unionville or Markham Stouffville, their riding is kind of irregular shaped. It's really my riding is that.
Huh,
Yeah,
the letterbox. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Mimi, you've had political experience before. Could you maybe touch on that a little bit?
I actually ran last time in 2021, but it was not with the PPC. If you guys go online and check the Election Canada website, then you'll know what I ran for.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. There's nothing but love in the People's Party. People come from different parties. We're a big
Yeah,
tent party, so it's not a big issue at all.
no,
Um, but I was just wondering, like, why? We can tell. I can tell the audience what party you ran for, right? Is that
yeah,
okay?
sure.
You ran for the Green Party, correct? Yeah. Like, what was it? What was it about the party? Let's start there. What drew you to the party? What about the policies attracted you?
Are you talking about PPC or are you talking about Greens?
Let's start with the Green Party. Let's go
um,
chronologically.
Actually, when I ran for the Greens, I was myself very, very green. Like I was very new to politics. And at the time, like really, I only know a few things uh, on the Greens. And I could align myself to the Greens a lot more than the other parties simply because there are so many other things going on with the Liberals and the Conservatives and I can never align myself with the NDP. So where else can you choose, right? So it's sort of like okay, like maybe this is good. At the same time, at that time, I had recovered a few very very good friends and longtime friends that they are actually longtime Greens. So to me, really, if you look at anything, if there is one organization that is able to attract a lot of really, really fabulous people, that organization should be something that you want to be a part of, right? So that was really the very, very first thought I have with the Greens.
Okay, and you mentioned that the NDP was a no-go right out of the gate. Why? I'm fascinated by figuring out what makes people tick. So, what was it about the NDP party that you just found was not acceptable?
Well, I am not totally left, so it's too social related, like too much, too heavy on it is what I don't like. Even though people said, "Oh, the Greens are very social also," but if you really look at the spectrum, NDP is like right that side, right? So that's the only reason.
Okay, so I guess the counter question I would have is if the NDP was, let's say, too far left economically, like too much for social services, why didn't you get behind the Conservative Party, which I would imagine is more right, the less social services?
That is correct. Maybe 30 years ago. Well, technically, I have been voting for the Conservatives before I went back to Hong Kong. But then after the decade, I came back. Then I have to, exercise my rights and start voting again, right? So I read the platforms. I was looking at what's happening and everything. The Conservative was already no longer the Conservative that I thought it was when I first came over. So I couldn't align myself with the Conservative either.
Okay, fair point. Which leaves the Liberal Party. Like, was the Liberal Party not sort of in between the NDP and the Conservatives? What about them did you not like?
You would think so, but at the same time, I think I just has not ever been a liberal. Like if you know, whenever we have election coming on, we will have the election compass. Yeah, I'm never close to the liberals.
Is it the social issues or the economic issues?
I think it's more of a ballpark thing. It's not just one thing. It's multiple things that, that kind of thing.
Okay, so you ran for the Greens in 2021.
Hmm.
What did you? And was this in Markham or in a different riding?
It's the same writing.
And what did you learn? Like, what were the top issues? What was the most biggest criticism you got?
At that time, the biggest criticism was actually about the party, which I don't think is fair for us to discuss it here. But then what I learned a lot of things actually. Like you can't unseen what you have seen. Like there are so many things that we need changes, and I that's why I decide, you know what, I have to run again.
Okay, so now we're in 2025. Hopefully, we'll have an election this year, if not next year, or never.
I don't think it would be next year
You think it
because
is this year?
yeah, of course, because we have to be on schedule. It can only be earlier. I don't think we will have a chance to have it later.
Yeah, it keeps change. Like everything is changing. So when the tariff thing came, I
Mhm.
thought, great, they're going to ride this out. And then within 24 hours, Donald Trump just slapped Trudeau down, and now an election is probably likely soon.
Yeah. Even without that, it's very likely it's going to be sooner anyway.
So we were going to talk about the tariffs later, But why don't we talk about that now? What do you think's going on? What do you think Trump wants out of these tariffs?
Well, he's a businessman. What I think is he looked at the tariffs as a way of making income. That's how I feel anyway. Like, of course, we don't know because we're not him, right? But that's how I feel that why he is doing all that. It's like he's not really distinguished, like, oh, you're the bad guy, that's why I put tariff on you. It's not about that. It's about how much he can make. And it's easy to put it there.
So the tariffs have been put on hold now. Do you think that in 1 month he's going to bring back the tariffs, or do you think it's actually about the border, the fentanyl, and the terrorists crossing?
The borders is actually one of the major issue for sure. Like, this is not something that we can say, oh, he's just talking about it. No, we know the border issue is an issue ourselves, right? So I would say there is a chance he will bring back the tariffs, but then I think he is giving us a chance to renegotiate what he had signed with us the last time.
I've watched the last 3-4 days. Donald Trump has turned our political apparatus upside down. Like, Pierre Poilievre got humiliated. Justin Trudeau got humiliated. I don't think Mark Carney's better off. The two premiers, Doug Ford and Eby, they're what idiots. Well, in my opinion, boycotting alcohol from red states, I don't think that was the right thing to do.
It will not work. I don't think so. No. As a matter of fact, like, I'm one of the people that I'll bring whatever alcohol I could when I come cross the border. So no, I don't think so. And the fact that even during the pandemic, our wine store, beer store is still open, that people are not going to stop drinking.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It was a critical infrastructure.
Yeah. Exactly. So no, I don't think so. It's not going to work.
I was thinking about you yesterday, so I won't go into detail, but you told me when you were here that you had an event set up, and that event had to be canceled because of Trump. Like, they made changes and they weren't funded. Yesterday, the story broke about U.S. aid just being completely shut down, and you see all of this money that's invested in Canada. I wonder if that's why your event was canceled.
Well, it's yes and no. It's really it's something that they have funded that indirectly from the state. But regardless, they want everything that deal with not within the states to be hold on, right? So that was the reason. Like, we couldn't move forward with it. Yeah, because we were not in the States. If we were invited to be in the States to have that event, then there is a chance it might not be stopped. It's really hard to say because we're still not Americans, right? So it's really hard to say.
Okay, let's go back to, we were talking about the Green Party. 2021, you ran. You gave your reasons for it. You didn't trust the other parties. Why the shift to the People's Party this time? Like, did the Green Party change? Did the PPC change?
Okay, so it's funny because I've heard of the PPC from actually my official agent last time. So when I was chatting with her, asking her to be my official agent, she was actually asking me if I realized there's this PPC. And I was like going, no, like, what is it? And so she chatted with me a little bit, on Max and, stuff like that. But then, I didn't really look into it. So we just moved forward with our plans, right? And the changes in the Greens I think everybody would have noticed what it was anyway. It's not something that I need to tell you or the audience, really. The reason why I switched to PPC is really, majority of it is, first of all, it's really the vaccine mandate. We all know Max was the only person out there actually talking about how wrong it is and everything. I'm one of the people that, like, why do you force people to get vaccinated? The only reason I can think of, really, is to let the pharmaceutical companies to earn a lot more than what they should be.
Right. No.
And on top of that, of course, is the way that the federal government had been handling the pandemic all over. As a matter of fact, I have a Torontonian group, and we actually called for closing borders right at the beginning of February 2020. And at that time, they were still talking about, oh, closing the borders is no use. Excuse me? And then what happened afterwards? The whole world closed down. Yeah, so that's probably the start of how I realized what PPC is doing, and there is a party called PPC.
So I'm gonna share a story with you, and then I'll tie it into my question.
Okay.
Very early on in the pandemic, the lockdowns, I realized that nobody cared about what was going on. If you were not vaccinated, you're a leper. No, and they just didn't care what they did to you. Recently, the only way I've been able to get through to them in the last few months is financially. I just tell them, listen, they stole your money. They gave it to Pfizer. They didn't ask for any of the profits back. They forced you to buy their product. Yep. This was a theft. That's why the price of bread is high. Mm-hmm. So how do you tell your story to, for example, former Green Party members that no longer are aligned with your view on vaccines?
Okay, put it that way. The Greens, they never really have a mandate regarding the vaccine. They are quite loose on that also. They don't force upon us. So I don't have to debate with any of them on that.
I'm sorry, I thought the Green Party was supporting the vaccine mandates.
Maybe the party stand has it, but then they are not forcing any of the candidates on that.
Oh, sorry. My question was more like when you're going door to door and you're talking to your constituents. Mm-hmm. I use the former Green as an example, but like how does your message resonate with them when you say, vaccine mandates were wrong?
That I would say, okay, so I would actually play my card on human rights a lot heavier than anything else, really. Like at the end of the day, like you are forcing everyone to inject something you don't even know whether it's safe or not. And for a fact that now everybody knows that they have been lying the whole time, right? So it's really, it doesn't matter how you look at it. The mandate itself is wrong. That's just very clear. And there's no way you can argue with anyone on that.
I was laughing there because I've watched over the last few years friends and family who were 100% believing whatever government told them. Yeah. Slowly they're waking up, and it's like watching a little flower blossom. So
yeah, I know. And at the same time, it's when you hear there is no negative voices, that must be something wrong. When everybody is praising something, there must be something wrong.
Yeah, it's usually like 50-50. There's people screaming on both sides.
Exactly. And the fact that they have, like shutting down everybody when they say anything negative on things, right? Like we got censored left, right, and center on different things. Like this is Canada, hello, and then we get censored. We can no longer read news on Facebook because of what they put out. Like there are just so many things is wrong in this country now.
Yeah, the censorship is what really bothered me. I grew up in the 90s. So I actually grew up before the internet. And censorship was when your dad kicked your ass for, starting a fire or something. I never had the government tell me what I can and can't say.
Exactly. It's crazy. And you don't think this is dictatorship? I consider that it's part of it.
I met with a member in my riding. It didn't go very well. Like they were very liberal, like left of center.
Mhm.
And nothing I said resonated with them. So one of the things that he said is, yeah, but we don't have censorship here. Like you can,
Oh,
and it
really?
was funny. Yeah, but it was funny the way that he said it. He goes, we can talk about taxes. We can criticize the taxes. They won't throw you in jail. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not what they come after.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think it's a very narrow thing that when you're talking about, okay, yeah, we can say whatever, but freedom of speech is only part of it. Like the freedom of um, getting different information is very, very important, because you don't have any way to talk about anything. You don't have any um, knowledge on what's happening if you cannot even accept or receive new information. They put you in a box.
Yeah, and we saw it spill over to the court system with the I think it's judicial
Mhm.
deference, where they just agreed whatever the government said.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah.
And yeah, for the longest time, like I never really questioned the government when I was growing up either. Like you just sort of, oh, okay, that's what they say. Yeah, sure, that kind of thing, right? And same thing with, like doctors, lawyers. You tend to believe what they say as a professional, right? But then what, in the last 5, 10 years, you're like going, wait, maybe some things there, maybe some other things there.
Yeah, but it's like before, when we trusted everything government said and doctors said, they said the right things mostly. Then the COVID came in, it was like a zombie virus that took over all these doctors, that they went brain dead.
Yeah.
Like, ivermectin bad, COVID vaccine good.
But we now all know it's not about making them brain dead. There is always a huge dollar sign at the back of everything, right?
Yeah, the lobbying. That's
Yeah,
true.
the money, the power. Like I think to them it's a very, very nice game, to be able to manipulate the whole world. You know.
It's a good way to describe the vaccination program. It was like a game. The government comes in and forces everyone to buy the product.
Mhm.
Pfizer sells it at an inflated price, and then the government takes a loan out in the name of the people and gives it to Pfizer.
Yeah, yeah. And then at the end, they give that money as a donation to all the governments.
It is, yeah. They're subverting the legislative process, where the legislators are responsible to we the people,
Mhm.
but now they're getting paid by on. We're still paying them, but it's coming from someone else.
Exactly. Like and look at how we have been receiving all that money from the government during the pandemic, like SERP and everything. It's crazy the way that it has been going and created all these debts that we have. Yeah, it's fascinating in a way.
It still blows my mind when people say, like, why is food so expensive? I'm like, where do you think inflation comes from? Like,
Mhm.
who do you think bought all these vaccines? Who do you think paid these people to stay home?
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that they encourage people to not work at all is really bad. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, we all know how bad it is.
It's crazy. Like paying somebody to stay at home and not work is like giving a fat kid a cheeseburger to not run on a treadmill. Like it's making the problem way worse.
Exactly, exactly. And that's how I looked at, like some of the social related stuff, right? Like you don't want those people to be just not work. You want to encourage them to work. At the same time, you want to be able to help people. I think that's how I look at things.
I'm reminded of a book from my childhood. It's like Native First Nations book. It's about this kid in a tribe who was lazy, and one day like he went out and he caught more fish than any of the other fishermen, and his mom was so proud. This is like the opposite of that, you know. If they did that story today, the mom would be proud if he stayed home and didn't go fish.
That's crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
It's Canada, I guess. Um,
Yeah.
Mimi, next question. Onto the issues that your constituents are facing. In my writing, like healthcare is one of the main issues. Mom goes to the hospital, she's there with her kid for 4 hours, no doctor, and then she gets pissed off and leaves.
Mm.
Is that a big issue in Markham, or access to healthcare, doctors?
I think this is a big issue in Ontario also as a whole. We have so many so many patients that the hospitals cannot handle. Our emergency line is long, like that wait is very, very long if you're not bleeding like hell when you get into the emergency. Yeah, so I think this is a major issue, probably all over Canada. I have not heard of any other places that they are saying, oh, like we can get our medical in time or not have to wait for long for any like specialists or whatever.
I remember I was born in Iran. I've only been back once, 2014. I got sick and my cousin took me to the hospital. It was a private hospital. I paid $50 or whatever to get a shot. I was really sick. We didn't wait. It was like we were in and out in like 15 minutes. Really attractive nurse, she was very friendly. I would never go unless my arm has been severed. I don't go to a hospital in Canada. It's pointless.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, as a matter of fact, um, I I realize a lot of doctors actually advise you to just stay home and rest, majority of the time anyway. Like if you go to the doctor, like let's say you make an appointment and we go to the doctor and we talk to him or her, you know, at the end, yeah, go home and rest well. you know
It's almost like they don't really need to go to medical school for 8 years to figure out to tell you to drink orange juice.
Well, I don't know. I didn't take the medical school, so I wouldn't know what they gone through. But I think one of the major issue also is on my platform is actually immigrant integration. You know how the federal government, our immigration system, have always been for a long, long time is a point system, and you have more points if you are in the professions that Canada actually needs you. But then when the people come into Canada, usually it's because of different provinces. We have different regulations, and regulators, they behave differently. A lot of people that I know in Ontario, they can hardly go back into their professions after they came over to Canada. So as much as they have already factored in, okay, I'm going to cut my income like a 1/3 or even 1/2 just to come here for my kids. They couldn't even get back into the professions simply because of different things. And a lot of it, like doctors, nurses, even engineers, they are asked to start all over again. They ask them
Yeah.
to go back to medical school. And if you're in your 30s or even 40s, maybe you could do that. But once you're in late 40s or early 50s, you would not be able to go back to school. Like, spend another 8 years, even 5 years in school. Like, how are you going to be able to raise your family? How are you going to be able to live a life when you are already not as good as restudying again and all that stuff? Like, in the 20 years of my financial advisor life, I have met so many clients and even their parents in that situation. And it's heartbreaking because all these people, when they came over, they thought that they would have a better life. And they thought that they'll be able to build the society continuously, like what they did in their home countries. And they came to Canada. That is very, very disappointing because whatever they thought, whatever the federal government, I can't say it's promised, but I would say whatever the federal government painted in front of them was totally different. And some of them they felt that is unreachable to even go back to their professions. That's very, very heartbreaking and very sad.
So on the issue of immigration, the way the government is approaching it, it's problematic on both sides. On the domestic side, they're bringing in way too many people. On the foreign side, like you said, they're promising these people paradise, and they come here and it's hell. And like I talked to all these Uber drivers, they're like, "So, like, what'd you do back home?" And he's like, "Oh, I was a PhD."
Yeah,
And I'm like, "Do you like living here as an Uber driver?" He's like, "I hate it, but my kids have stability and they got better schools."
exactly.
Um, that's like the only benefit that we have left. And as the economy gets worse and the school and the healthcare gets worse,
That
I'm
benefit
cautioning.
is fading.
Yeah, it's fading. It's like Ottawa. If your entire business model is based on bringing these immigrants over so they can drive Uber, that's not going to last forever.
Nope. Yeah. And you're right. As a matter of fact, the immigration itself is not about wrong immigration. It's about the number of people we are bringing in. Like, we are just bringing too many of them. Like, all of a sudden, all these people come in, not to mention we have returning Canadians, right? From all over the world. Not just our medical system that we just talked about, our educational system. We could not handle them. There's way too many people. And then what about social system? Like, all these people will grow old. And if they are, of course, like returning Canadians, okay, yeah, so go back to that issue that we were just talking about, right? The PhD that right now driving an Uber. You think he's going to stay here after he got his citizenship? Or after the kids are grown, if they were able to go elsewhere or go home or whatever, they would leave Canada. And then what happens? They leave Canada, all that tax is gone.
Yep.
You don't even get to tax them on Uber driving. Okay, even if they were taxed, that's another thing altogether. But when they are actually earning in their earning lives, you don't get the tax because they are no longer living here, because we don't get taxed when we're non-residents. And then when we go old, these people, we have a good social system. They come back. They grew old. They have OAS, and then they get sick. They are on our medical system. So we are losing both sides. It's not good.
You brought up a good point. No one talks about this, but it's the abuse of the system. So I'm going to speak about Iranians. They come here. It's they come here on the first day of school. Their kid goes to school. It says like, Miriam, are you here? And she says here. And then the next morning they fly back to Iran. They come back 6 months later. A few years later, they get citizenship. Maybe some of them stay here and have careers. Some of them go back and work in Iran. They pay taxes in Iran, if at all. And when they're sick, they come back to Canada, and it puts a strain on the healthcare system.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's not just Iranians. We have like so many other cultures, people are doing the same thing.
Yeah, and it goes. What's happening is that Iran is the Wild West, as an example. So you can work there and you can make money, and typically you don't pay any taxes. Like there's no income tax, nothing.
That's
right?
nice.
So they go there, and there's no regulations, and their business is there. But over here, you have socialized medicine. So it will fall apart if they don't change it.
Yeah, it will fall apart for sure. Like I can't see this can last longer. Like it's really non-sustainable. And that's what I'm saying, is that we need something that is sustainable.
Yeah, and I don't know what that looks like. Either every year we have to pay, like explicitly, you have to pay into your healthcare regardless of your income, or something. They're robbing the system.
Well, I am all for a private stream on our medical system. So, like, if people can pay or they don't want to wait, then at least they have a choice. Right now, we don't even have that choice. So that's another thing altogether. But at the end of the day, I think having choices is what is really, really important. And as a financial advisor, I built my plans with different choices and flexibility in case whatever happens that I can think of at the time when we put together the plan anyway. But being able to have choices is very, very crucial.
I agree. It seems like a no-brainer to me. If you make money and if you can afford health insurance, it should be like anything else. Like you can afford a car, you can afford a home, you can afford food.
Mm-hmm.
The government doesn't step in until the safety net thing where you can't afford it.
Mm-hmm.
But somewhere along the way, government managed to convince people that healthcare is a protected category and they have to provide it for everyone, or else no one will get it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I don't know how we come to here, but there are things that we need to fix. And another thing that's on my platform is really, I don't know, like if any of you guys had a chance to look at what happened was, now we are deciding to take away the bike lanes in a certain area in downtown Toronto again. So this bike lane thing, we have been on and off going, we put in bike lanes, and then, yay, we have this. And then, we have to take it away. And then people are like protesting, we need the bike lanes and all that stuff, right? Like it has been back and forth so many times. And every single time when we do this, we spend a lot of money, to paint the bike lanes on and to take it away and then to put it back in and all that stuff. And the fact is, even we have the bike lanes, it's not safe because we are using the same roads. The cars are there. And when the drivers are turning right, there's just like, oh, all of a sudden just appeared. And you might not even realize that when did it come, So it's actually very, very dangerous. And I know another group in downtown Toronto. They have been also advocating on the bikes and all that stuff. My perfect solution is to have a bike ride infrastructure put together separately away from the roads altogether. And we need to understand in this day and age, the bike lanes are not just for bikes because we have a lot of older elderly people. They're on their scooters. So if we build that nice infrastructure, then our elderlies will no longer need to beg their friends and family to, drive them here or there or whatever, and that improves their lives.
My view on bike lanes is like a bicycle being on the road is like if I wanted to go for a jog and I'm jogging on the road, it's not the right place. Take your bicycle, put it on your truck, go out in the mountains somewhere and find the trail.
Well, yes, of course. Like if you want to have a hike or bring your bike with it or whatever, that's of course is something that you could do. But it makes sense for us to be able to use our bikes in our daily lives also. It's only required the proper infrastructure, and that's what I was referring to, right?
I agree with you on the. I agree with you on the other thing you said. It's very dangerous in Vancouver. Like you're driving, you want to make a right-hand turn, and the bicyclists are going in both directions.
Yeah.
You like look left, right, up. Like you don't know where this bicyclist is going to come from.
Yeah, and the fact that like there are so many things that we could do, on a bike, and we don't have that. We solve the traffic congestion problem if we can route some people who really want to bike, and also the elders on their scooter, not being needed to be in a vehicle, from point A to point B, we could probably take away a lot of traffic.
How is the traffic situation in Toronto? Because you guys have a lot of people, and you were getting rid of highways to build apartment buildings. Is it really bad now? Or I used to live there 20 years ago.
Okay, which highway are they getting rid of to put apartments?
Is it the Don Mill? What's the one on just below Front Street?
Oh, you're talking about the Gardiner Expressway.
Gardiner, yeah.
But the Gardiner Expressway is so broken. Like concrete has been falling off the whole thing. So I'm unsure about whether they take this down to build condos or whatever. But that Gardiner has not been maintained for a long, long time. But then our congestion issue is critical. Like we are always in traffic. No matter what time of the day, you're on 401, it's really, really bad. So yeah, we need major fix on our infrastructure.
It's a topic of issue between Torontonians and Vancouverites. So you go to Toronto and you're on the DVP, the Don Valley Parkway. It's it's like 40 kilometers of bumper to bumper traffic, right? So you're
Yeah.
there for 2 hours.
Yeah.
But then you come to Vancouver, you have one bridge that's like 800 meters long and you're stuck in traffic for 4 hours.
Yeah,
I swear
I
it's
know.
worse.
I know. That's why there are so many things that has to be done, not just on the city level. It has to be the three levels of government work together to figure things out. Because the city really they don't have a whole lot of money to go around either, right? So there are things that the federal government as a whole on the top level and look at it to make it worthwhile, across the whole country.
Cities, they do definitely present different challenges. I'm more of a farming guy. Like, just I got my rocking chair and my shotgun. Like, get off my lawn, leave me alone.
Yeah, that's another lifestyle altogether. Like we in the city and we're in the traffic all the time.
Yeah, it's true. That's I said goodbye to that a while ago. I'm out in the middle of nowhere now. Mimi, we're at 45 minutes, 46. I kind of want to hit one other topic, so let's go with education. Um, I never, when I talk to my voters, I never get anyone saying anything like, "Oh, these," swearing at transgenderism or anything like that. It's always the teachers are disrespecting the parents, or payment. We have a transitioned teacher in my kid's class. I don't know what should I do. So there's a sense of anxiety. What's your impression?
Yeah, I have heard of some of my friends talking about these also. As a matter of fact, I have not been very closely tied to the educational system after my son had grew up. Um, but I'm unsure how much freedom the teachers have in regards of the syllabus that they're teaching the kids and what they're bringing in at what point of the kids. Like, are they bringing in certain topics in grade one already, or in grade three, things like that. um, and of course, education is a provincial thing, right? um, so I myself, I think I need to look into it a little bit more to be able to answer your question. But at the same time, I think this is something that your your voters will have to bring it to their MPPs to actually figure out what else they can do, or um, like how the system is working right now.
Yeah, it's definitely a provincial issue. All right, Mimi, give us two final things. One, give us a plug for how people can follow you, social media, website, donations, anything, and then give us a finish it off with words of optimism. Where you think Canada is going to go right in 2025?
Wow, that's the tough thing at the end. Okay, my social media, my uh, IG and Facebook, they are Team Mimi Lee. So both handles are Team Mimi Lee. I have X is actually my personal account is Mimi Lee underscore CA. Um, my website is still being built. It's also teammimilee.ca. So right now, if you were to donate to me, if you like what I said, then you can go on to PPC website and find my page. Then you donate to me. Okay, so regarding the last thing that you're saying, how we look at 2025. So we all know, again, very likely we are going to have an election. If you are not already a PPC supporter, I urge you to look at and meet all your candidates in your riding. Talk to them. Forget about the platform of the party. Forget about which party they are going to be running for altogether. Forget it. Because you know what? People think that conservatives is going to win anyway. If that's the case, that's fine. Elect one or two good people who are going to be able to actually serve you, not the party. Chances are, if you vote for a liberal, a conservative, or even an NDP, when they vote along the party line, not based on what you want. So meet the candidate and vote for the candidate actually work for you. That's my last word.
Beautiful. Thanks, Mimi. It was a good message to end on. So get to know your candidate. Mimi, thank you very much for coming on. As we get closer to the election, we'll bring you back on.
Thank you very much for having me.
Take care.
Bye.